Fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Well, sir, I busted out of COVID isolation, feeling a little brighter, a bit chippier this week. My play date with COVID is gone, and now it's time to get back to work here at the Fisherman desk. I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. It's September 8th, 2022, and Labor Day weekend, like my bout with COVID, seems to be in the rearview mirror, with the first official day of fall still on the horizon for September 21st. So these are what I would call the in-between days. In fact, that's the basis of an editor's log you'll read in next week's digital edition of the Fisherman magazine. But for surfcasters, these really are kind of the days to embrace. Empty beaches, warm water, you can cast in shorts, walk along, beautiful mornings, beautiful evenings, a light plug bag maybe with the thin metals, the epoxy jigs, the exo jigs from Game On, Deadly Dicks, Tsunami Slim Waves. But you want to be on the lookout for those wheeling and diving turns for a shot at one of those surf speedsters at this point. False albacore, a little early, but that could happen at any point, especially if you're along the northern stretch, Albee Alley, which is usually where we find the first schools of false albacore. And of course, the Spanish mackerel and Atlantic bonito. In fact, in Nick Honicheski's Beach Talk, it appeared this week in our reports at thefisherman.com, Nick said Spanish mackerel made a showing up along the Sandy Hook stretch in our Labor Day weekend forecasts. That's according to Phil at the Tackle Box. Bonito and little tunny schools popping up just outside of Manasquan over the weekend, as well as per the folks at Fisherman Supply. Some small bonito, as per Charlie's Bait and Tackle, and a 3.5-pound pompano reported in the past week at Betty and Nick's in Seaside. The real head turner, of course, at the Jersey Shore in the surf came from Brigantine, according to Captain Andy over there at Riptide Bait and Tackle. A bluefin tuna made its presence known in Brigantine. I will remind you, I'll remind you every year, there is no legal way, according to NOAA Fisheries, for surfcasters to get on the bluefin tuna. Remember, you got to get that HMS permit, and you can only get an HMS permit with pretty much a hull number. You've got to go with your registration, your boat registration. That's why some of the guys are registering their kayaks now with the state of New Jersey, just so that they can get a number associated so they can go to get their HMS permit to target bluefin tuna along the inshore mid-range grounds. So again, surfcasters, you're at your own risk as far as whether or not to keep a bluefin tuna should you happen to catch one this fall. They do pop up this time of year as those bluefin are in tight along the beach. And if we get that sand eel run in November, sometimes you'll see them in the surf at that point as well. I know what I would do, so I'm not going to offer advice on what you should do. Farther south into Cape May County, kingfish, some big spot, croakers made an appearance, as well as a few Taylor blues. And the folks at Hands 2 Bait and Tackle said those tog are still on the back inlet rock piles along with a few sheepshead. Good season for sheepshead so far in 2022. And it seems like those fish are still around. I heard from 10-year-old Robert Nagel this week. He had a 4-pounder. He was sheepshead fishing on the inner wall near Lewis, Delaware this week. He was using sand fleas. So good luck there. You got to get in on those sheepshead now while the water temperatures are nice and warm. And that pretty much is from central Jersey to the south. Although a few tight-lipped sources I know of do catch some up in Sheepshead Bay and Long Island. But I'm convinced there are a few sheepshead on the prowl along the structure in Raritan Bay, perhaps just not hearing any of those reports. Now, the Spanish mackerel and bonito could stick with us, or should stick with us, through the month of September well into October. And of course, that rod-bending, blitz-chasing albie action is still to come. That will last through October as well. The way I'm feeling right now on the back end of COVID, I will not be chasing schools. So when I start seeing those albie blitzes along my favorite stretch of beach, I'm going to stand pat and wait for those albies to show up at my feet. In fact, this was October 21st of last year. So hope does spring eternal on a good speedster run in the fall surf. One thing I really love about this time of year is that you can comfortably work those beaches. Like I said, shorts, light apparel, but you can go at low tide, mid tide, high tide, different winds. It's definitely a good opportunity to do some scouting before the heavy-duty surf action of October and November enter. I mean, working a stretch at dusk and dawn right now, while perhaps not as fruitful in terms of what you're going to land at your feet, it will pay big dividends in October and November. Consider the fact that if you plan on working a particular stretch at night, the more you can work it at different stages of the tide by day this time of year, you'll have a better layout for that particular stretch where the bars, sloughs, where the winds affect the moving water, so you can get some good night action. Your favorite stretch of beach, you'll know what to expect. Now, in between days, as I call them, summer crowds and beach umbrellas, they were last week. And in about a month and a half, we're going to be dealing with buggies and picket fences. So enjoy that solitude of September surf scouting while you can. Now, of course, now that we are post-Labor Day with these next few weeks, we are in prime fluking time period here at the Jersey Shore. Right now, as big flatties are set up on the reefs, the rocky structure, and of course just outside the inlet, all the inlets, as some of this bait starts to pour out. So long as we don't have a big tropical storm at some point this month, which typically chases the fluke to the eastern grounds, but the fluking should hold up right now in the coming weeks. Think from the Raritan Bay and the Rattlesnake all the way south, all along the Jersey reef sites, down to McCree Shoal and the reef sites off of Delaware as well. Prime time for getting into these fluke. Jamie Fisher got on a good one on Monday, fishing killie at the Shrewsbury Rocks. So again, there you go, that structure where you'll find the fish. But also we tend to think deep water this time of year with those big fluke hunkered down deep. Well, Mike Velez was out on his kayak on Monday. He was fishing in 4 feet of water and found action with 4-inch gulp shrimps. I tend to think maybe he's in that little pattern where those fish will get up on the flats, those grassy flats, and just gobble up the grass shrimp. So there's a good indication right now. Again, I want to remind you, New Jersey's black sea bass season is closed until October 7th, but fluke season will continue here at the Jersey Shore all the way through September 27th. That's a little bit more than 2 weeks for you to load up on the meat for 2022. So gear up and fish on.
We are the Fish Bites Nation, and this is your invitation. So grab some fish bites and get busy casting, because you can't join the nation without doing the catching.
I know the kiddies are probably sad to be back at school, but I would remind you that this is a great time to enjoy a much quieter weekend with light tackle chum pot fishing. I mean, depending on where you are, anchoring up in a hole with a few logs of frozen clam chum, some fresh clams or fish bites or gulp on the hook can really be very effective. Using Barnegat Bay as kind of a centralized location. Loads of snapper blues, of course, but blowfish are on the menu. If you get into the right spot, you will find some good numbers of blowfish, maybe a puppy drum or two, outstanding light tackle fishery. You also might be able to get into a load of spot. In the upper stretches of Barnegat Bay where I was kayaking, caught a bunch of spot this season. That's a great chum pot fishery because while you might not bring every spot home for dinner, those big ones are tasty. But you put them in a live well, bring them back to the pen, they make some delectable offshore candies for this time of year. I have gotten a bunch of offshore reports and photos sent to me as guys are pressing offshore before the windows, both the weather and the water temperatures close. But we are starting to see some of those weather patterns where it makes it a little bit more difficult to get to the offshore grounds. We'll take a look at the offshore forecast and some of the latest photos that I've gotten here at the Fisherman magazine. But first, let's spend 75 seconds out west with my buddy George, the Pocono Outdoors Guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, the weather again is taking front and center here with our fishing forecast for this week. You know, just last week, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers closed the ramp here at Preacher's Camp here at Beltsville. You know, they had to do a dam release and not let the water down probably better than 5 feet. Well, the rain we had so far this week has filled that back up only down a couple feet now, and the ramp is back open. But we'll see how that plays out. Fishing is still difficult. You know, all that rain's got the rivers and creeks kind of muddy. Guys up like in Wallenpaupack were really hitting it hard right before the storm and pretty successful. Things were starting to pick up. Friend Patrick Carey checked in, and he was getting some really nice pickerel up there in Wallenpaupack. You know, we call them slime darts, we call them hammer handles. This guy was almost a pike, he was so big, so real nice job there, Pat. Now also over on the Delaware River, good friend Tim Keebler out on a solo trip. Those smallmouths are really kicking in high gear. We're getting to that time of year, guys, where fishing's going to start picking up. Let's give this rain a few days to settle down. I think we're in for a little bit more rain next week. We'll see how that plays out. Hopefully nothing like it was earlier this week, but I think the fishing is starting to turn good. Guys, hang in there. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors Guy.
I'm Captain Greg DeBrule of the party boat Blackhawk out of Niantic, Connecticut. You've seen us at the sport shows, you've seen us on TV, magazines, newspapers. Now you can come fish with us, okay? We're fast, we're clean, and we're comfortable. And besides that, we catch them, ask around. Come visit us at blackhawksportfishing.com. We'll save a seat for you.
In his offshore report this week at thefisherman.com, Tom P. said he's hoping the slow going on the tuna grounds to start September is just the calm before the storm. Picky is the bite that he's collected, doing the reports from North Jersey down into Lewis, Delaware, yellowfin, big eye, and albacore, longfin at the canyons. Again, picky bite. But he did say wahoo, swordfish, and of course mid-range inshore mahi have been a pleasant surprise in filling in a lot of the blanks. Now the folks at Creekside Outfitters over the Labor Day weekend had an impressive wahoo catch. It was brought in for Dave Coyle and crew aboard the boat called Nimrod. They're out of Long Key Marina there in Waretown. A 92.8 pound wahoo that was caught on a pink spreader bar. Hey, if you want some more information on wahoo fishing, I interviewed Captain Darren Doris, who's a wahoo nut. That's over on our YouTube channel. I'll post the link here, but he's working with Nomad Lures. He's got some great tips and tactics for getting on those wahoo. In fact, he had an article earlier this year, the August edition of the Fisherman magazine, worth a read. On Saturday, Captain John Gibbons on the G4 let me know the yellowfin were whacking jigs just about 35 nautical miles out. I believe he heads out of Manasquan. Captain Ray Lopez out of Forked River, the Miss Lyanne. He put 15-year-old Johnny here on his first ever big eye. The crew also had a handful of yellowfin as well. That was, again, over the weekend. While hopefully sword fishing is just starting to get heated up for you guys thinking about doing some of those overnighters this month. Captain Nick Caruso aboard the Big Kid over the weekend. An overnighter with the first of what I hope to be a bunch of successful sortie trips this month. Coming from our fleet here at the Jersey Shore. If you do want some pelagics without a trip to the canyon, start working those fish pot markers. Some solid mahi action coming in at this point, inshore mid-range grounds. This time of year is a great time of year to get in on some of those chicken mahi especially. Rob Sweeney, Rick Mariano, and Jason Bailey, they were out with Captain Ryan Niels on the Fin Reaper, and they both had the mahi on the troll and also throwing some chunks along the pots. Meanwhile, Gary Adair and Kirsten Holloway left Great Bay on a trip out of Beach Haven. Again, I believe that this was this past weekend. Glassy conditions found some good mahi action just offshore of Long Beach Island. Regrettably, I'm not sure if the word glassy is going to be used to describe the offshore conditions this weekend from the Baltimore to the Hudson. As it stands on Wednesday, things would appear to be, as I would call them, sporty. East-northeast winds continue Thursday into Saturday morning, and the NOAA weather forecast is indicating that those swells should stick around through at least Sunday at this point. Hopefully on the other side, getting into next week, things will lay down a little bit, and those tuna, mahi, and maybe a couple of billfish, wahoo, swordfish will be on the menu. I would hope that things lay down a little quicker than expected, but I know the Jersey Coast Shark Anglers, they had their first annual overnight tuna tournament to support kids with cancer. That was scheduled for this weekend. Rick Carroll let me know that the club pulled the plug on that contest, which of course is something to get accustomed to this time of year. Weather patterns are constantly changing. It's a great time of year to get offshore in search of tuna, but again, you really have to pay attention to that weather forecast. Again, JCSA canceled that overnight tuna tournament. Rick tells me that the next tournament on the docket is going to be a striper tournament coming up in November. Now, as far as contests go, don't forget about the Fisherman magazine, our members only contest. First, you've got the Coastal Kayak Clash. It's a kayak only tournament which registers length of fish, and currently the hardtail category, Spanish mackerel, bonito, false albacore, that is wide open. So I'm kind of hoping to see a Jersey tunny on the board pretty quickly. Hey, if you're looking for a kayak, by the way, don't forget that Hobie special. That's going on through September 11th. So if you've been looking for a kayak, you want to save a little bit of coin, hit some of the local shops that handle the Hobie dealerships. Fisherman Supply in Point, Sterling Bait and Tackle, Fanatics in Ocean City. Stop by, ask, or take a look for your local Hobie dealer right now. And of course, the big daddy of our contests at the Fisherman magazine, the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge, and the season-long quest for a 23 Steiger Miami powered by a Yamaha outboard. Now, at last check, New England's Rob Carranzo was just one good fish at this point ahead of New Jersey's own Dean Paolella. But there's plenty of time left in that race, especially with November Blackfish, no doubt representing the final push for the pennant at the end of this contest season. That is at the end of November. Now, it's not just the Steiger or the Yamaha, the Hummingbird, the Minn Kota, the Sea Eagle kayak, all great prizes that we have at the Fisherman magazine, among so many others. But also up for contesting this season in the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is a trip of a lifetime to Marina Pez Vela in Quepos, Costa Rica. Now with that, I'm going to leave you with a taste of La Pura Vida with Captain Ben aboard the Jackpot there in Quepos. Catch him up. Thanks again. Hey, by the way, all the great wishes, the messages, the texts, the emails that I got, thank you very much. I'm feeling better, and I can't wait for the fall run myself. I will see you on the beach. As the saying goes, when you love your job, you never work a day in your life. God bless. See you again next week, right here at thefisherman.com.
Hey there, guys. Welcome here to Costa Rica and the Marina Pez Vela. We got this week's fishing report for you right now. The billfish bite has been pretty good this week. Just yesterday I was out there and caught a couple of sailfish on my boat, Good Day. But one of the boats in the fleet had an insane day. 1 blue marlin and 11 sailfish. Just incredible fishing. Another one of the boats had 3 blue marlin yesterday, and there was some nice dorado and some yellowfin tuna a bit further out. The tuna fishing these past few weeks has been really good. Most of the fish have been mid-sized, around 30 to 50 pounds, but we've had some 80 to 100 pound fish as well. Dorado season, we call mahi, is going to get really cranking over the next month or so, and that will peak in November, which is the best season for mahi. Hope to see you guys down here in Costa Rica soon. Until next week, this is Ben Gilmore, and back to you.